Welcome to another episode of Unscripted with Marilyn Morales. Today, I have another mom on a mission. I love showcasing moms who are doing great things in life, especially Latinas, right? So before I begin with that, I'm going to share once again the secretary of Izzy's Legacy, sharing our mission and why she is so passionate about Izzy's legacy.
So, ever since Isabella's passing, I made it my goal and my mission to continue to honor her life, continuing her legacy through Izzy's legacy. I not only do this every day through my professional career, but now I have the opportunity to do this through this amazing organization. The work that we're going to do is so important because we're spreading awareness, and now we're able to do so much more within our organization, primarily really educating the community about the need for more donors on the registry, specifically those of diverse backgrounds due to the disparity, and being able to financially help those patients going through a cancer journey. We're helping children like Isabella and families like ours who went through a really tough time through our journey. So we want to be able to do all that we can to honor Isabella through helping others like us.
Visit izzyslegacyinc.org for more information. So let's get to my next guest. Her name is Aysleth. She is the owner of the first bilingual publishing company in the state of Arkansas called Authors Are Us. I absolutely love that name. She's the executive director of nonprofit Learning Idiom, where she is the host to Podcast Learning with Faith and Spanglish podcast, Transcending La Familia. You will be hearing some Spanglish here today. Originally from Southern California and currently in Central Arkansas, she serves as a bilingual realtor for Coldwell Banker. Being a mom to published author Kevin, who is autistic, inspired her to write poetry throughout the years. Her stage name is Sachy Ice Queen. She is an immigration advocate and loves sharing and educating her Latino community about real estate, mental health, and most importantly, family life. Let's welcome Aysleth to the show. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for
welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Definitely.
Thank you so much. Listen, I heard of you about a year ago. Right? I remember it was about a year ago where I heard about you, about your mission, about your wonderful son, being a published author, which truly inspired me, right? I just became a published author about a year ago. So hearing that your son is a published author, and I do want to hear about that and how that got started as well. But please share with my audience who you are, what you do, and all about Aysleth.
I'm an autism mom, first and foremost. I know most probably mothers, they even though they are mompreneurs and they do so many busy things, I think the number one job that we all know that always comes first is being a mother. And so for me, being an autism mom is definitely something that has helped my business in a way that I can definitely relate to those type of people. And also it's helped me in the sense of always having a reason to keep going, always having a reason to, it's just added to my ambition and my, the reason to keep going in my business. And so definitely always like to reach out to any special needs moms out there because it takes a community, like they say, to raise a kid. And if you don't have that community, it's very, very lonely. It's very it's not as enjoyable for sure. Because I've been there where I didn't have a community and I was raising my son, and it was extremely difficult. And so I'm just fortunate to be able to have that community now. And so I always push for any mom out there. I know it can be busy, but it's going to definitely help you in the long run. So apart from being an autism mom, I'm a realtor. So I've been in real estate for about 3 years. I've been licensed for about 1.5 years here in Arkansas. And so I'm one of the few Spanish speaking agents in the state. And that's why I moved closer to I moved closer to the capital, because there were, in recently, I think it was maybe like a year ago, they recently, any undocumented people, as long as they can prove that they've been living in the capital for 3 months, like a phone bill or whatever, they're giving them an ID. And so a lot of immigrants are moving towards this way because, they can have that here. So I definitely want to be able to better serve my community, my people. And so that's the reason why I moved to where that they could be better served. And so, yeah, I deal a lot more with people who want to learn how to invest more than just buy or sell a home. So
Okay.
I like the investing side of real estate a lot more. And then I've been an interpreter and translator, I like to say, all my life because I'm a first generation born citizen. So yeah, I remember when I was small and I had to like fill out all my doctor stuff because my mom didn't know English. And so
That's right. That's right. I had this a similar experience, and I think a lot of us. I'm a New Yorican, right? So it's the first one born outside of the island of Puerto Rico. You have to help your family members. So when we master the language, then we're called upon by our families to help translate and do things like that. You mentioned something that I want to circle back to though. Why do you think there are so few Spanish-speaking realtors where you are currently living?
So I think there's just not very many, and that's the reason why we started that nonprofit where we virtually we teach English and Spanish. There's just not a lot of representation when it comes to the business world in Arkansas. It is definitely growing, but there's just not enough yet. Whenever I got to Arkansas, it was like there was not very many. I probably graduated high school maybe with, I don't know, 50 to 100 Latinos, but there wasn't that many. Now, of course, there's a lot more, but again, there's just not a lot of representation in the business world when it comes to being a Latino in Arkansas. It's definitely growing, and so we're definitely trying to push for that and have more Latinos in the business space, but I don't think there's enough. And so that's the reason why there's not it's not like Texas or like Florida where the majority of the people are Hispanic. So there's definitely room to grow, which is always a good thing.
Do you happen to know why there has now been people of Latino descent moving to Arkansas? Because they usually go where your families go, where that your people are, right? So going to Arkansas is going to be like uncharted territory. Why do you think that there's now this attraction to that area?
So it's really close to Texas. So a lot of people that come from the border, they always go towards this way. A lot of the people that I've met, I personally have never been to Nicaragua. I'm actually going to go in the summer for the first time. Okay. But a lot of Central American people actually come here and stay here because they say that it looks like their home. So they stay here and they settle here because it reminds them of home. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. Arkansas is the natural state. So I always tell people there's more trees than people here.
That's wonderful.
But yeah, I think that has a lot of the appeal of the Latino folk to stay here. And as far as like, the minimum wage here is higher than most states. It's like $11.25. So I think that also is an appeal for other people too, not just Hispanics.
So for our Latinos out there, right, this is something that's moving up, right? You may want to consider if you're one of those nearby states, especially if it's as beautiful as you're saying it is, right? With the trees. I love trees. I love nature.
We have beautiful waterfalls too. So like it's a really beautiful state. And they definitely preserve the natural beauty because that's one of the reasons why people come here.
Oh, that's fantastic. The other thing that you mentioned is your why. Right? Your why to get up in the morning, your why to move forward when you're having challenges in life. And, there's a lot of us out there, moms, either with special needs children or special circumstances. Like in my case, it was a child with cancer, right? Same thing. If you don't have a community, if you don't have somebody who maybe understands what you're going through, it can be very, very lonely. So identifying your why, was that a difficult process for you?
So when I started my first business of a translating interpret professionally back in 2009 or 2019, I didn't really know why I was doing it. I just wanted to make more money. Like I wanted to have like extra play money where, because I worked at the bank and so I was working there full time. And then I slowly started, thinking about my son, thinking about my future, thinking about my legacy and thinking about what I wanted to create and not just, add to somebody else's legacy. And so I think it was probably like my second year into my business where I was getting enough clientele and I could envision, not having to work for someone else and creating my own abundance. I think that's when kind of I started learning, okay, well, maybe I should have a why, maybe I should have a mission, maybe I should have, something, not just a side gig, like they say. So I think after the first year of just hustling and making some extra money to like go on vacation and stuff, I think that was definitely when I started, looking and searching and identifying what was my why.
Is there somebody that inspired you to become an entrepreneur, right? Because this is not for the faint of heart. This is hard work, right? People glorify being an entrepreneur and think it's easy because then you're the one that's got to answer to you, but it's actually extremely difficult, right? So what inspired you to do that and think outside the box or just working for somebody else to say, hey, I want to do this for myself?
So yeah, my ex-husband, he's from Honduras, and so he's been a full-time contractor, since he got to the States. And so I don't want to say he inspired me, but I definitely like saw what he was doing was like, why can't I do it? And
Okay.
so
It opened your eyes. It opened your eyes basically
yeah,
to
for sure.
an alternative way.
For
Okay.
sure, because even till this day, he remodels homes. He's been in that industry of construction and remodeling for, 17 plus years. So seeing him not have to depend on, corporate America or whatever, and just him going out and, doing what he does definitely was like, I mean, if he can do it, I can do it. So yeah, that definitely motivated me to just like, that's when after I graduated college and I was working at the bank, I was like, I mean, what can I do? So that's why I thought of my skills. I thought of what I could do, what I could offer, and how I can serve people in my own way. And so that led to the first limited liability company was the translating, interpreting for people. So
That's fantastic. I think that Latinos are natural hustlers, right? When you come from nothing, you're always trying to invent something. You see the kids, selling fruit or or doing something to bring some change. I come from New York City where the kids were always hustling, right? If they bought a pretzel for 10 cents, they were selling it for a quarter, right? Natural to us, I think. But we just don't have that guidance in order to do this like a full-time thing. We're automatically, shown this other way to work for other people and forget that we have this natural ability to work for ourselves, right? And I think we need to bring that. Do you agree that this is something that we need to show our children that there's another way of being?
yeah, like, I think being in the Latino households, they don't really tell you how to do things. They just kind of expect you to know. And
Yeah.
so money in my house wasn't really talked about. I think it was talked about a little bit, but not
Yeah.
to the extent that I wish that it was. And so, that's one of the things that I always talk to my son about money all the time because I didn't get that opportunity to learn about finances, about what anything costs. Like they don't really tell us anything when I was growing up. My mom didn't sit down and tell me, oh, this is didn't even give me the receipt to like grocery bills or anything. So like I think just having that education at home of money and money, management is really important. And a lot of people don't do it. And I think that definitely affects a lot of Latino, like when they grow up, because they're like, how did my parents do this? So, so
Yeah. Yeah.
that's really something that needs to be
That's
changed.
that's huge. And also you only know what you know, right? So I think that a lot of Latino households, especially when I was growing up in the prior generation, didn't know a lot, right? They just knew how to survive, right? So they didn't know the whys of things, and maybe that's why we weren't taught these things. And my mother did teach us a lot of stuff about saving and making sure you had a nest egg, so she did a lot of that with us. But yeah, we didn't know how to buy a house. We didn't know how to get a mortgage. We didn't know what interest rates were. And that's because they didn't know what those things were. Right. So bringing the education back to the home so that you can educate your children because you don't know. You don't know. Right. So because you don't know and you don't want to seem like I don't know enough, right? To your children, you don't teach them all the things because you don't know either. As I grew up, I was like, wow, I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know what that was. And I don't think in school they didn't teach me all those things either. They taught you how to count, they taught you how to make change, they taught you the minimal,
They don't teach
right?
you about
Not
taxes.
they don't teach you about taxes. No, they don't teach you about a lot of things. So I think we need to do a movement on changing that. And I think that you're doing that. You're doing a lot of that in what you do, especially in your translation services. So talk to me a little bit about that. How is that? How are your clients? How are they receptive? Like when somebody comes to you, what is their greatest need?
So the biggest thing for me is that a lot of the people that just get here, they don't even know where to go. They don't know, like, they don't know the resources that they have access to. And even immigrants, like when they come here, they don't know that they have rights here. A lot of people don't. I don't know, like the other states, but here in Arkansas, like even if you are an immigrant, you have rights. And a lot of people don't realize that. They're scared. And so I think the biggest hurdle that I always have to deal with is that mindset of like, it's okay that you're here and you're not supposed to be here. But
Yeah,
once I kind of,
yeah,
kind of ease their mind of like, they're not going to kick you out for no reason. So like once I like go past that, then they're more likely to be asking questions, like want to learn because they're out of that like fear mentality of like, oh,
yeah.
I don't want to get caught being here because then I'm not going to be able to provide for my family and send them money. And so, once I kind of open their minds in and be like, okay, there's a lot of people that are undocumented here and they get documented, do things, and they're still here. They're like millionaires. And I deal with investors, and some of them, they're not born here. They're immigrants that came here, still are not citizens, still are not even residents, and they thrive. And it's
Wow.
and it's like testimonies like that I tell these new people that come because they think, oh, okay, well, they think of the American dream, and so a lot of people don't realize how the American dream is accomplished, and so they think that they're just gonna work their way and then figure it out on the way, I guess. And so that's the biggest hurdle for me is to be able to like break that fear mentality from them because they come here and they don't want to they don't necessarily know their skills either or even think that they're actually skills sometimes
Yeah,
because they don't have that piece of paper. And so I tell them,
yeah,
you can do whatever you want here with the skills that you have, but if you have that piece of paper, I'm just going to tell you, you're going to get paid more. So why not?
yeah. Listen, so you that have this experience of the case studies, right? So going from a survive mentality to a thrive, survive to thrive, right? So to do that switch, to those people that you identified that have thrived, right? What was the difference in them versus the people that don't? Can you
So
identify something?
yeah, so what I realized is that the people who come here and they actually thrive is the like what I've seen. I'm a preacher's kid, and so I live a very faith oriented life, and so what I've seen is, the people who have some kind of faith or some kind of community that they have that support. A lot of people, they
Okay.
come here, they think they can do it by themselves. I'm just going to be honest with you. You can't do it by yourself. You need help. You need the support of the people around you. You need the support of your family. You need the support of, the people that you call friends. So, a lot of the people that realize that, I do think that they thrive a lot faster because they realize, hey, I can't do this by myself. And so I think just having that humility in the sense of I need help and I don't know how to do everything, but I want to learn and I want to thrive and I want to be here successfully. I think that kind of separates the people who just kind of come here, work, and then go back home. And then, because I have had some people that they just, they had some debt that they wanted to pay off. And so they come here, work for like a year or two, and then they go back home. And that's totally fine. But there's some that they don't want to leave, but they don't know how to ask for help. And so it's
Yeah.
it's a very hard thing in the Latino culture to ask for help, and I think that it's
Pride,
definitely
pride and
something.
egos.
Yeah, we're so
Yeah. Yeah.
somos son orgullosos de de donde venimos, and so which is a good thing, but at the same time, it does hurt us in that sense of it's harder for us to ask for help.
Well, that's beautiful. I absolutely love what you just said. All of that, because that speaks to community. Faith replaces fear. When you have faith, when you're a faith-based person, you put the fear aside because you're allowing something greater to attract to you, so that you're able to not only just help yourself, but to help your community, right? Because we're all here to be in the service of others, not just ourselves, you know? So I absolutely love everything that you just said. Thank you so much for saying that. Because I think it's something that we try to remind people that we can't do this life alone. And we have to remember that and put your egos aside, right? So tell me a little bit more about your son and how he became an author.
Oh, so that was honestly, to me, it was like a challenge that I did. My son was struggling with writing. He's always been a really good, reader. He's learned how to read when he was 4. So his reading was fine, but his writing was struggling. And so he was 11, and I was like, it was that summer, and I was like, you need a summer project. I was like, and he wanted some kind of toy. I think it was like a Switch controllers or something because his broke. And so I was like, okay, write me a book and then I'll get you your little, Switch controllers. And so I thought he wouldn't do it. I kind of was like surprised. And then, yeah, for like 3 days, he did not play. He did not really come out of his room very much. He was just typing away. And then, like, within 3 to 4 days, he had 20 pages that he gave me. And I'm like, where did all
Wow.
this come from? So it was pretty cool. To me, the coolest part for me is that my son's extremely nonverbal. So I'm lucky if I get maybe, 50, 70 words out of him in a day. So for him to like write all this and for me to actually know what's going on in his mind and kind of, was really cool experience because I already knew he was funny, but like it shows out in his writing that he, the silliness that he has. And so even though they're scary stories, he has some humor in them that I'm just like, of course he would. So I think it's really cool to see his character in his writing. And so that kind of started his journey of wanting to write. And then every year, I told him, I was like, hey, if you publish a book every year, by the time that you're 18, you'll have 8 books published. Not very many 18-year-olds can say that. And so that he's working on his 4th. And so,
Wow. Yes.
yeah, so that kind of started that whole thing. But it was really cool that I got to meet his biggest inspiration in writing is the author of Goosebumps, R.L. Stine. And he came here to Arkansas. And so I took him. And so that kind of like motivated him even more because he's like, oh, I met him in person, got his autograph. And like, so like him getting to see his, one of his biggest inspirations was a really cool thing for me because it motivated him to keep going into like, oh, that could be me one day, So that was really
amazing. Amazing. And I think that it's a very important thing that you mentioned that your son was mostly nonverbal. In other words, he didn't want to talk, right? Nonverbal, not that he couldn't, he just doesn't want to. He chooses not to. And that is pretty evident in the fact that he can write his thoughts out on a piece of paper, right? And it all comes out. So for moms out there who are struggling with the same and they have children that are similar, yes, inside of that child, there's still communication. You just have to find a way to inspire them to communicate. And it may not be the way that we are accustomed to communicating, but find their way to communicate. There's so many different ways.
Oh yeah, he sometimes instead of saying, when he messes up, instead of verbally saying I'm sorry, he will write me a note and put it under the door in my room.
Oh my God!
Like like you could have just told me, hey, it's like no. He like wrote down, and I'm like, okay, Kevin. But
sometimes it's a preference. It's a preference of communication, and just because they don't prefer to communicate the way we do, doesn't mean anything. Figure out the way of communication for that other person. There are so many different ways to communicate. We just happen to fall on the most easiest, which is talking, right?
Yeah.
Kevin is so inspirational. Are his books for sale, or are we able to purchase them? Is it out there somewhere?
Yeah, they're on Amazon and Google Books. So if you go to my website, I have a link tree, and then he has his own link tree too. So yeah,
Awesome.
but yeah, Kevin Bautista. I'm pretty sure if you put Kevin Zeladon, because he's hyphenated, it's Bautista Zeladon, and so I'm pretty sure if you just put Kevin Zeladon, I don't think there's another published author that has Kevin Zeladon. So, but yeah, he's working on his fourth, and I'm excited for him because with
That's awesome.
time, it's been, you could see the growth in his writing, which is really cool.
Total inspiration, and kudos to you, Mama, for inspiring and bringing that out in our children. I think that's one of the biggest things, our jobs here on earth as moms, is to be able to inspire our children to live their best life possible. And you've done that. I mean, truly, I have chills when you're talking about Kevin. I do. And for other moms who need that inspiration and want to inspire their children as well, please look it up. I'm going to include it in the links when this episode is out there so that people can know how to get a hold of Kevin's books, right?
Oh
As
yeah,
well.
he just recently had his first speaking engagement. He was part of a
Oh my God.
yeah, he was part of a global superpower conference talking about autism. And so he got to share a little bit about his books and, his, like, him basically. And then he mentioned what, autism is for him, and so I thought that was pretty cool that he got to have that speaking engagement.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Mom, he's about to do more than you.
Well, yeah. Well,
Uh,
first in the beginning, he was like so against it. Like he didn't like, he's really shy. He doesn't really talk. And so for him to even just do the 5 to 10 minutes of him just talking was a challenge. And then so I told him, I'm like, this is for you. Like, this is going to help you. You can talk about your books. And so that's one thing I will say, that even though he doesn't talk very much, if you get him talking about something that he likes, oh, he can talk for like a while. So I was like,
okay.
just talk about your books. I know you like to talk about that a lot. So talk about scary stories and R.L. Stein. And so yeah, I think if you don't know what your kids' interests are and if they're not verbal with you, definitely get in touch with what they like to do, because they'll be a lot more communicative with you once you tap into their interests.
That's it. Just look for their interests. And most of us have a fear of speaking in public, right? We don't want to get in front of people and talk. Even something like this, like a podcast, people are afraid to get on and speak. So yeah, kudos to Kevin again, once again, doing great things in the world. So back to you, right? And you work with people all the time, and you help them with several things. So list some of those things so that our viewers know if they want to get in contact with you, what kind of things you offer. And do you offer them outside of Arkansas?
Oh yeah. So like in Arkansas, the main thing that I do in Arkansas is I'm only licensed in Arkansas when it comes to real estate. And so when it comes to real estate, I mean, I tell you like generic information, but I'm always going to have to refer you to someone in your area, which is totally fine. I've done a lot of referrals. And so that's always a fun thing. But the main thing that I do globally is I do help people get published on Amazon, on Google. I do
Okay.
interpretation also, virtually, not just in person. So that's definitely something that I do globally, is I interpret. And then of course I'm part of the nonprofit where I mainly just to create the content. I do maybe like an hour or two of free lessons teaching, but I don't teach as much as other people on the board and in our team. So yeah, mainly just the podcasting and promoting people, and then also, getting them being to a published author is mainly what I do globally.
And the focus of the nonprofit is, what is your mission?
Sorry. So our mission as a nonprofit is to break language barriers and culture barriers by perfecting people's English and Spanish. But we also teach a lot of, we have interns in the summer. So we have, we teach about like social media, we teach about real estate, so I always take on 3 interns in the summer. And so we either have one in English or in Spanish join us, and we teach them basically what we have, because there's different peoples with different skills in our team. So I mainly take on a social media intern, real estate intern, and then one that's just basic business, one-on-one, because I've been in business since 2019. So just kind of the startups, basically.
Okay, so all these things outside of the real estate you can do in any state virtually.
Oh, yeah. It's a virtual
helping.
vocational academy.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. In addition to the translation services, those are for, do you do translation in books as well? You translate, if somebody wants their book in Spanish, you can do that?
Yeah, I've been doing that for a while. So I translate books, documents. Sorry.
No worries.
My sister's a public notary, so if anything, so mainly, important documents, anything like that, so that any kind of translation we do.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And for my viewers out there, if you want to get a hold of Aysleth, her telephone number is scrolling right on the bottom of the screen. Get in contact with her. Is there any final thoughts? And the final question that I ask all of my guests is, what is your definition of success?
So I would say the definition of success is for you to find what you're good at and what you like to do, and just kind of hone into your skills and what you enjoy, because that's when you can kind of, if you're interested in being an entrepreneur, you can definitely work for yourself and create your own abundance. And so if you don't find that appealing at all, a lot of people are extremely happy in their corporate job, and that's awesome. And we need those people. Like, we need doctors, we need all those people. So I definitely want to say that just because this isn't, your journey, where, definitely find who you are and don't forget whose you are, because I think when you realize that, that's when you can truly find success, is because you're in one with yourself, with the creator, and with who you believe in, whether that be an entity, whatever you believe in. So definitely success is being one with yourself, and also knowing who you are, and definitely having that confidence in yourself to, believe that you can strive for more and be more.
Beautiful. I love that. Know who you are and whose you are. That was great. Thank you so much once again for being on my podcast. And for my viewers out there, I will see you next time. Bye bye.